Hi, everybody. I'm David Hachen, and first I just want to thank everybody in my group. Can everybody in my group stand up? And these are all the collaborators and people. They did a great job. And you can all read their names in the thing. I butcher names, so it was an exciting 2 days to work with people. And you're going to see that in our talk today, we're not going to lay out a lot of propositions or make a lot of claims. We're going to pose questions, because I thought our group really stimulated, at least it stimulated my thinking. I think it stimulated everybody else's thinking as well. And what I'm hoping to do today with you all in this few minutes that I have is to share that stimulation with you and to stimulate you to think about some of the things that we came up with and thought about. And if you are so stimulated, then please look at our names, email us, and we'll start collaborating with you and exploring some of these topics all together. So that is my hope on this. So we're going to talk about the internet and how it positively and negatively impacts social behavior. The subtitle was A Human Development Perspective, but as I listened to other talks, I saw a little bit of an add-on I'd like to add about this. I think we're going to talk a little bit, and you'll see this in a minute, about how to bring the social more into the understanding of human development and brain and mind development and emotional development in the digital age. So I really want to stress that we're going to try to bring that into this whole equation here today. And let's see if I can get this to work. So let me first outline what I think was the problem, or what we saw as the problem, and some of you have highlighted this as well. The speed and scale of the internet and now allows the rapid growth of what we've talked about, and I talked about a little bit yesterday, weak ties that may not even know each other or whatever. And now we think that people can have 400, 500 maybe of such ties through Facebook, when before in the older days it was 150. And the big question we keep posing to ourselves and kept coming up in our group is this in some ways coming at the cost of our developing much stronger ties? And that's the big issue. And here is a little cartoon that may capture this, but obviously he had lots of Facebook friends, but I hope he'd be morbid. But when he passed away, nobody came. So how many, was it really killing all of his strong ties? And that's kind of the problem. And of course, one of the issues then, so what? You know, strong ties go away? Who cares? You know, maybe that's not a big deal. But as we thought about it in my research and other people's research in sociology, they're very, very, very important. They build trust, right? If they form and become stronger, they can persist and be called upon in times of need, and they're reliable, they're there for us. They allow, because they're very strong, the practice of social interactions, and we can learn things and start to reflect on our own behaviors through those interactions with others. They may help us to get empathy by perspective taking, and a lot of research shows they're very important for social support and many other health outcomes. So we don't want to see them go away, and one of the issues is how can we preserve them. There's lots of things that go along with strong ties. In fact, in my own research and other people's research, we think reciprocity is the real crucial thing, the mutuality, the back and forth that's critical, and it's through that process that ties strengthen. But we also know that people, and we talked about this a little bit in our group, and I think one of the people that ran around the groups mentioned this, that when people have strong ties, they kind of have similar mental models, and so they can understand each other much better from various clues and other things than when they're very weak ties, right? They share a common space, or a mental space and emotional space as well. There's also the ability to have emotional change and to recognize both the emotions that are being expressed by another person as well as the intensity of that emotion. And they provide a feedback loop, a kind of mirror by which we can kind of see ourselves and get feedback on the things that we are doing well and not doing well as well. So they're pretty important in our social lives and in our human development as well. So we also posed a lot of questions then about what we really don't know about strong and weak ties in online communication. And these are some of them that I'd like you all to think about as we've thought about. Is really online communication fundamentally changing the development of strong ties? A lot of us are assuming it is, and we have some sense it may be, but we really don't know this exactly, and we really need a lot more work to understand that. Does the internet limit or facilitate the ability to exchange emotion based on individual differences? So now you're seeing we're trying to tie together emotion, emotional change, strong ties, and digital lives or online lives. And of course, then how are the major covariates or major differences among us in terms of especially age, but also socioeconomic status, ethnicity, and culture, how do they affect online emotionality and the exchange of emotions online. And in particular, a number of us pointed out this is really crucial in early child development. Our children that are staring at screens all the time rather than human faces, are they losing some ability to read emotion, understand emotion, and therefore the ability maybe to form and get a lot out of stronger ties. So the impact of technology on social behavior. Is that it? It's gone to 3 million, I think, at this point. So you are now part of the viral spreading of that internet. So anyway, so that gives you a little sense of, wow, it's a little fun. Okay, next slide I go to, right? So some recommendations for research. We think there's also the descriptive discovery component, and then there's more, we're trying to look at the mechanisms and interventions that we could try to do to try to deal with these issues. So first on the more discovery program, we think, and previous slides were on this, about the importance of instigating some longitudinal studies. So to look at over time as people start to increase or possibly decrease their online usage, how do their networks change? How do their ability to recognize things emotionally change? And a lot of other things that were pointed out in an earlier presentation change. And we think we need those. We need just more cross comparisons of high online and low online people. There's been a number of these done by some of the people in this room. But also I'm bringing in the age differences, the status differences, the ethnic, cultural variation differences. And can we also understand whether the internet limits or facilitates the ability to exchange emotion based on these individual differences? We noted that for some people, it may really be the key thing to be able to do this emotional exchange. Autistic children, for example, and introverts were some of the first people that really went online and developed it so that they could express themselves and stuff. So it may be different for different types of people in terms of their personality. In terms of solutions, and I talked about this a little bit yesterday, or we discussed this more, we could work more towards balancing online and offline. If online starting to overcome online, offline, could we really change some social norms, educate people about the costs like we do with cigarettes, not saying that online's like cigarettes, it's not a bad, there's lots of good things about online, regulations of various sorts, tools to enable eventually people to self-regulate themselves and have a better balance between their online and their offline lives. And the other track is to enhance online, as some of you talked about here, to facilitate this emotional exchange and strong tie formation. And here we kind of brainstorm some things, but we're really just opening the door here for us to start to go in here and think about this more. But to identify and promote methods for synchronous communication instead of just asynchronous communication. To provide sensors and biofeedback that will allow us to exchange information about our emotional states. To have emoticons over our heads, to have, here is my emotion, and here is some emotions, right? I don't know if that would work. We have to assess these and use technology to help self-regulate by having pause systems or ways in which we could slow down sometimes the online presence so that people can reflect and develop the relationships. So recommendations for future research in some ways to think about how we could enhance the online activity so it could help strong ties and emotional development. Is it possible to maybe create an emotional scale so that what someone receives from a person is what the sender really wanted to express, and we can better understand that and learn how to understand it? Can technologies be built to create time for self-reflection? Can we create an emotional quotient like an IQ and therefore people will have more awareness of their emotional presence and their emotional exchange aspects, and could we assess that? And we began to think, but just really began to think about interventions and experiments where we could really test the efficacy of these various tools, because there may be some great ideas out there, but without doing controlled experiments, we won't know what works and what doesn't work, and more importantly, what may be some of the unintended consequences of some of our interventions. Lastly, and I said at the beginning of this, we're trying to stimulate you as we were stimulated in our group today, so we want to just provoke you with a few questions at the end. Is the internet really amplifying all of this stuff that I've talked about, or are there other social forces out there that are doing it? We all know that families are having hard times, family structures are changing, and it's through families that a lot of strong ties are occurring. So that whole process may not be the internet that's messing up strong ties, but lots of other things going on there. And we really, we may kind of think that it's the internet when it may be other things. Do we actually want more weaker ties? Are we getting overwhelmed by these weaker ties? There's clearly positive benefits of it, but there may be things there. And if we are moving towards more online communication, does it even matter if we can understand emotion through reading a face? Maybe we'll evolve as a species where we now can learn how to do emotion online, and we'll just evolve that way. And finally, this is a very interesting one, because we think people may get emotion or emotional feedback in a different way online than offline. And this also happens offline as well. We may get it more by popularity, by having a high-end degree, people liking us, like the popular kid in high school. They feel good about themselves, self-esteem, but that isn't building strong ties. And is that a really good emotional substitute for really what strong ties do, is create this reciprocal back and forth that builds a different kind of emotional exchange than the one you get by everybody saying, you're the best. And on that note, I'll thank you, and I'll leave you to be puzzled a little bit.
Thank you.